Alright guys, it's Matt here, hope you're all good. So, I've had a lot of people asking me about my pedal board. I recently purchased the new GigRig G2. Well, I say new, it's been around for a while, but it's new for me. So it's a new addition to my pedal board, and it's basically a big looping, loop switching system. Yeah, so I thought I'd just run through it and all the pedals that I'm currently using on the board and how it's all running. So if we start with the guitar signal, I'm using my PRS Custom 24 for this video. This is kind of my go-to guitar for most things, for gigs and demos and recording and all the rest of it. Bit of a jack of all trades. So anyway, the guitar signal. So we're going into the side here. I've got underneath a patch bay. It's got five ins and 5 outs. I'm using 4 of them at the minute, although I will be using all 5 eventually. But yeah, it's just underneath here, underneath my pedal board, tucked away there. And you'll notice this cable here has got a little green bit of tape there. That's basically my guitar, coming out of my guitar. So it's going into the patch bay. From the patch bay, we're going into the wah pedal. You might be able to see on the side here, it says guitar in. Been quite finicky with labeling everything up, just so I know myself where everything's going. So we're going into the wah pedal first, and then from the wah pedal, we're going into all the way over here into this remote Loopy 2. From here, we're then going into the input of my G2 GigRig. The remote Loopy 2 is basically allowing me to run a couple of extra pedals in addition to the 10 loops that we have on the G2 down here. In the remote Loopy 2, I've got the SP compressor in one of the loops here, and then in the other loop here I've got the my Digitech drop tune pedal. Okay, so we're now going into the input of G2. If I didn't have the remote Loopy 2, you could almost just think of it as the guitar is now just going straight into there, basically. But it's going into the wah because I've got to run that before the loops in any case, and then into the remote Loopy 2. Okay, so once the guitar signal's gone into G2, I'm then running it out of loop number 8. So there's basically 10 different loops on G2. In the other loops, I've got all the rest of these pedals, which I'll go through in a moment. But the guitar signal's got to come out of loop number 8, which if I just click on one of my patches over here, you'll see that loop 8 is on. So it's able to send my signal out of this loop. There is a reason why I'm having to do this. It's because I run the effects loop on the amp, which I'll get to in a moment. Okay, so we're going out of loop number 8, and then we're going into the front of my Victory V30 over here. You can see I'm going into the input on the front here. Out of the V30, I'm then using the effects loop. So the send coming from the amp is then coming into the patch bay over here. I've got this labelled up with a bit of red tape, so I know that's my send cable. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but yeah, so it's just easier for me to set up. So we're going into the send on the patch bay, and then that is going into my volume pedal, and then from the volume pedal we're going back into the return of my loop 8 on G2. Then after that, we're coming out of the output of G2 to the patch bay over here, and then again, I don't know if you can see that, but I've got this labelled up with a blue cable, and that's going to the amp's effects return. So this is known as a 4-cable method because I'm using the effects loop, and there's a reason why I use the effects loop, which I'll go over in just a moment. And the other cable I've got going out of here is the foot switch for my amplifier. So I've got 2 channels on my Victory. There's a clean channel, which if you push the gain enough, you can start to crunch it up a little bit, but I mainly use that for clean. And then the channel 2, which I use for a little bit of overdrive, and I'm able to use this feature on my G2 to change the channels on the amp. But anyway, that's going to the patch bay there, and then from the patch bay, that is going to one of the remote switch inputs, which is this one just down here. I'll go over that in a moment. So back to the effects loop. The reason why I use the effects loop on the Victory V30 is because I use the overdrive channel, and I like to run my delays and reverb after the gain. And the only way to do that if you're using the overdrive channel on the amp is to run your delays and reverb after the gain using the effects loop. The effects loop is basically an insert between the preamp, which is your gain stage of the amp, and the power amp stage of the amp. So anyway, that's why I use the effects loop, and that's basically the way the guitar signal runs. It does sound a little bit complicated, but it's not as complicated as it may seem. Anyway, so yes, that foot switch that I can control via G2. So it's really handy. So before I was having to use the Victory foot switch separately, but where this is plugged in here, we can see down here, we've got the remote switches here, which is what these are. I can use any of these buttons here to activate whether I want to use channel 1 or channel 2 on the Victory. So we can see here we've got labelled up here channel 1, I've just stuck that on there, and then channel 2 for the other channel on the amp. You'll see that change as I go through some of my various settings on G2. The other remote switch is where this purple cable is connected to. That's connected to my remote Loopy 2, and that can select any one of those effects if I want to dial those in. So the SP compressor is there on 1, as you can see, it's just lit up there, and I've got the drop tune there. Yeah, so that's the remote switches. Really cool feature on the G2. So let's go through the loops. All right, so in loop number 1 we have my Boss phaser pedal in loop 1, and I can activate that simply just by if I want to set up a preset on G2. So let's say so I'm on my patch 1 here. If I wanted to set up a sound with my phaser, simply all I have to do is press the loop number 1 button, and it's engaged. But I don't want that on that one, so I'm going to turn that off. In loop number 2 we have my Angry Charlie V2. Now I'm not actually really using that at the minute. I'm actually using the Angry Charlie that's in loop number 3. This is the Angry Charlie Andy Timmons model, and the reason why I've got 2 on the board is the switch broke on this one, so I went out and bought the Andy Timmons model, and actually I'm kind of preferring that one at the minute. So yeah, this one, they both sound very, very similar actually. So I think I'm probably going to go with this one, and I'm going to take this off the board and probably chuck on a tube screamer or another overdrive pedal of different sorts to give me a bit more sort of variation. But I thought I'd just put it on the board anyway for now, just in case I need to use it or want to use it. So anyway, that's in loop 2 for the Angry Charlie V2. In loop 3 I've got the Angry Charlie Andy Timmons. In loop 4 I've got my EP booster, so that's actually running after the gains, and as you'll see later, when you run a booster pedal after your gain stage, you'll get a big rise in volume. So that's really great for like solo tones. If you need to boost those solo sounds, stick a booster after your gain, and you'll get that rise in volume. In loop 5 I've got my chorus pedal, which is the Boss Chorus Ensemble C5, really cool sounding chorus pedal. In loop number 6 I've got my Harmonist pedal. It does quite a few things, this pedal, but I mainly use it as an octave pedal to get an octave down. You can change that to an octave up if you wish to do so, and you can get some cool harmonizing sounds, but I mainly use it for the octave down. And there's also a really cool chorusy function I sometimes bring out. I'll get a chance to, I will show that later. In loop number 7, we've got my noise suppressor, just the standard Boss NS2, quite a common pedal for anyone that uses sort of some high gain sounds, just to eliminate any noise. Really useful pedal. And then loop 8 is the guitar signal. Talked about that earlier. So that has to be engaged on any preset that I set, because if that's not engaged, then it doesn't send the guitar signal into the amp. So loop 8 has to be constantly on for any preset that I've got running. There's a few other ways you can go about rigging this up. G2 also has a volume insert, which you can sort of put your volume pedal into, and then that's a movable insert. You can basically move that in between any of these loops. Yeah, I decided to go with this way of rigging it up because it worked for me for now. Okay, so in loop number 9, I've got my Flashback delay pedal. That's this one here. This has 3 different settings on here that I've got saved, and I can flip between these manually. I've not got it rigged up as MIDI, so I just have to select which particular delay setting I want to use myself. But I can still, that will still engage if I've got it on certain presets. For example, my solo sound, you'll see there that the delay comes on, and whatever one I've left it on there, that'll be the one that engages. Okay, so that's in loop 9, and in loop 10, which is just there, I've got my reverb pedal, which is the TC Electronic Hall of Fame 2. The main difference between this one and the Hall of Fame 1 is it has the mash function. So when you press and hold the button, you'll see that little orange light comes on, and the more pressure you add to the pedal, you will get more of the reverb sound that you've got dialed in there. So it almost acts as like an expression pedal. If you push that down, you get loads more reverb. But I don't tend to use that. I've just got it set on a reverb setting that I'm quite happy with. Okay, so that's basically all the loops I've got going there. I'll just touch upon the volume pedal quickly. So because the volume pedal is coming, it's coming from the send of the amp and then back into the return of loop 8, which is just underneath here. It means that I can drop it. It basically acts as a master volume, really, but it's before the delay and reverb. So my delay and reverb trails will continue if I drop that volume, which I'll show you in a bit. Okay, but that's basically all the pedals that I'm running. You'll notice that all the pedals, the LEDs are on, so they're all on at the minute, and which is really cool. It means you haven't got to go around and keep tapping all of your pedals on and off. You just have them all on constantly, and then you just engage which ones you want to use by selecting them on here, which is really cool. So I'll go through all my presets now that I've got here on G2. Basically, G2 has 8 different banks, and within those 8 banks you can set up 14 presets or Stomp Box Mode. So it's got a lot of function to it. It's an incredible piece of gear. So I'll go through what I've got going on here on bank 1. You'll see here I've got the black and white labeling here. These are all these settings that I've got for bank 1. You'll notice there's some really tiny little yellow markers. That's for a different bank that I'm just sort of playing around with at the minute, and that's for one of my other band's new device. So that's a work in progress at the minute, but this is kind of like my generic go-to bank that I can sort of use for most situations that I'm using this rig for at the moment. So I'll run through those now. Okay, so preset number 1, you can see here it's labeled up as clean, so let's check that out. So basically what I've got running there with the clean, it's just channel 1 on the amp. We can see that selected here. And I've just got the EP booster running with that, so you can see that lights on there, which is loop number 4. And I've just got some reverb, so it's a pretty sort of yeah, nice, easy, straightforward, clean sound. That's my preset number 1. Now, preset number 2, this is where G2 is so useful as we move along the presets. This goes to my crunch channel on the amplifier, the Victory, and you'll see there that the amp channel is now changed to channel 2. Here's what that sounds like. Alright, so that's channel 2 on the amp. There's not actually a lot of gain going on there. I've got the gain set at around 9 o'clock, so it's very low on the gain, but you can still hear there's a nice amount of distortion going on there. Or overdrive, should I say. Okay, so that's my crunch channel on preset number 2. I use that for a lot of rhythm tones. And I can dial off my guitar volume if I just want to clean it up a little bit. So my guitar volume all the way on. Volume down a touch. So you can clean that up nicely. And then bring your volume back in. So really cool, I love that sound. Okay, so on preset number 3, this engages my Angry Charlie, the Andy Timmons model, signature model. So when we go over to that, a few things are changing. So it's going back to channel 1, which is the clean channel, because I'm now running the Angry Charlie into the front of that clean channel. If you run it with channel 2, it's just going to be a bit overkill because that's already an overdrive channel on the amp. So yeah, this is the Angry Charlie. There's the noise suppressor on with this, and I've also got the reverb engaged. I pretty much have the reverb engaged on most of my presets because I love reverb, and just for everything that I use or play. Sorry. So here's the Angry Charlie. So it's got a lot more gain to it. You can just about probably see my little markers here indicating where I have my settings, just in case any of the controls move. This is the drive settings, so you can see it's quite far around there, but not completely dimed, but almost there, I guess. But if you compare that to the crunch channel, so here's the Victory amp overdrive. When I'm changing back to the crunch channel, you can see that you can hear there's a lot less sustain there. If I go back to the Angry Charlie, so there's a lot more gain on the Angry Charlie there compared to the Victory overdrive. The Victory overdrive has got a bit more of a little bit more of a mid-range to it, I'd say. So a little bit more clarity to it. But yeah, so different overdrives there to give me different options. So next up we go to my solo sound. Now this is where I find G2 extremely useful, because before, so basically my solo sound that I'm using at the moment, I'm using a combination of different pedals. So I would use the Angry Charlie, and then I run the EP booster with that in front of it. I also run the noise suppressor with that, so that's already 3 pedals going on there. I add a bit of delay to it. I'll go through those delay sounds that I've got in a moment, and occasionally, so that's 4 pedals, and occasionally I might use the SP compressor if I perhaps just want a note to sort of ring out and sustain a little bit more and get perhaps a bit of feedback. I can actually add a bit of that compressor to it, and I get a really cool bit of feedback going. Might get a bit noisy at times, but so that can sometimes be 5 pedal changes in one go. Now if I'm going from the crunch channel on my amp to my solo channel, before I had this, what I would have to do is I would have to hit my Victory foot switch to change the amp back to channel 1, so the clean channel, and then after I've done that, I would then have to switch 4, maybe 5 pedals. So if I did the compressor as well as the other 4 I mentioned, that would be 6 pedal changes just to get my solo sound up and running. So now, because of G2, I can program it all, and what this now does, as I hit my solo button, it changes the amp back for me, because that's the way I've programmed this preset, and it's also activated everything I need on these loops. So I've got here the EP booster. Obviously it's changed the Angry Charlie, so that's the 1, 2, 3. I've got the noise suppressors, 3 pedals there, and then 4 pedals. I've got the delay. If I want to add in the compression, I can do it on the fly because I've got some Stomp Box Mode set up. I'll go through those in a moment. Or if I wanted to put the compressor on, I could just hit this button, and that's now got the compressor in that preset. You haven't got to save it or anything like that, so I go back and forth, it's still there, but I tend to add that in on the fly, which is what I can do up here. Anyway, I'll go for that in a moment. So yeah, such a great feature. That's saved me so much hassle, having that feature of G2, being able to change a whole load of pedal changes in just one switch like that, which is great. Okay, so because I've got the EP booster running after the Angry Charlie, we should hear a little bit of a volume lift at this point. Now, I'm not sure how well this is going to come across on the camera, the microphone I've got set up at the side here, but we'll give it a try anyway. I can certainly hear the difference in the room. So here is the Angry Charlie with no boost or anything like that, just on its own. So there's quite a jump in volume there, certainly for me sitting here by the amp, and when the amp's not really cranked anyway, so it's not working very hard because I'm just recording in my home studio at the minute. But yeah, it's quite a big jump in volume there, which is great for when I jump into a solo. So I might be playing some rhythm perhaps with this setting. Bust into a solo, crank on the solo channel. Yeah, so it just lifts that volume up a little bit higher. So that's the solo channel, really cool. Okay, moving on to the preset 5. So what I've got going on here, again, very similar to preset 1. I've got a clean setting on the amp. Running the EP booster as I did with my other clean setting, so I just find that sound really nice, adding a bit of the EP booster with my clean channel. Now I've got here chorus, that's why it says clean and CHO for chorus. I've got a chorus and I've got a bit of delay going on in this setting as well, so just to create those vibey kind of sounds if I need it on the fly. So that's got the chorus and the delay going on there. Now, if I want to add a bit more delay to that, I can just do that manually, and I've got 3 presets here. The main preset I use, which is labelled here as space, is my main sort of delay I use for my solos and some of my clean sort of delays. It's kind of like it's very analog sounding. I think, if I remember rightly, the space delay setting on the Flashback is based on an old Roland delay unit. But yeah, it's a really nice delay sound. So the repeats aren't sort of quite dark, so very similar to sort of the analog sort of sound. I love that. Okay, so if we add in this one, this is a longer delay. There's more feedback on the repeats. This is an analog with modulation. So if you want to hold some nice little chords down. Those really cool vibes going. that's kind of cool. So yeah, and then the other one, which is an analog delay, I've got a slightly different setting going on here. If I remember rightly, I set that up with dotted eighth notes, almost like that U2 edge kind of sort of sound. Anyway, so I can select any of one of those that I wish. Now, moving on to preset number 6. So this is a clean boost. Now, although I've got the boost pedal running with these two, what I've done here is I've added in this feature, the pre-gain feature. You've got a pre-gain before the loops, so you can add gain before it hits the loops, and you can add post-gain after it hits the loops. I've actually got this engaged on every channel because this is to do with my delay trails. If I play again, this is a really cool feature of G2. You don't get this feature with some of the other loop switches. So if I hit a note, okay, so we can hear the delay. So if I put the other delay on, now when I change to a different preset, by having this engaged, and there's a special feature that you can you have to program to get this to work. But basically now, when I change preset, you can hear that the delay trails are carrying on when I change from one preset to the next. So I do the same here as well because it's got delay engaged, and I'll change over to my clean channel over here. The delay trails carry on, and that for me is really important. It's something that I've always had, and you're able to do that within G2 as well, which is really useful. So anyway, that's what I've got. That's why I've got the post gain. I've not actually added any gain there as such. It's just to engage that delay trail function. So anyway, back to my clean boost over here. Now, the reason why I've set this up, I've actually added more level to this, and it's because my PRS basically has like core taps. For these humbuckers, so, or core split, should I say. So I've got 3 positions on here. It's a 5-way blade, but 3 of those positions are humbucker. So if I just play a chord on the position 1, and when I drop to position 2, it splits it. So it's become a single coil. It's very stratty kind of sounding. But in doing that, you lose a little bit of volume, and I found that playing live, if I ever switch from a humbucker sound on a clean sound, for example, if I go back to here, there's no effects on there apart from the EP booster and reverb. When I go back to position 1, you can hear the increase in volume because it's going from a single coil back to a humbucker on the pickups. So to combat that problem, I set up this channel so that I could basically use that clean sound with my single coil and keep the level the same. So let's say, for example, I was going from my preset here on channel, or preset 5, sorry, using humbuckers. I'm just using the middle pickup here on the PRS. Nice bright, twangy kind of sound. If I needed to go to the single coil, what I would do, switch over, and now the level is still relatively the same. To be honest, there's not a lot of tunes that I'm playing in a minute where I'm having to use a clean sound and switch between those two. But you would still notice it, like say if I played a song that perhaps used the humbucker, and then go into another song and I've stayed on that preset, suddenly it's a lot quieter. So if I'm playing another song and I want to use that pickup, I can just switch over to that. So again, a really cool feature within G2 that enables me to do that, set up a whole different preset simply just to boost my single coil pickup setting. So there we are. So there are all my presets on bank 1. This is just bank 1 I'm going through. I'm not going to bother going through all the other banks. The other one's still work in progress anyway whilst I'm figuring out sounds. So that leads on to these ones over here. Now you'll notice there's an orange LED on each of these different buttons along here, and these are all basically in Stomp Box mode, so this allows me to basically dial in any one of these effects just on the fly. So for example, if we go back to my crunch channel on the amp, so this is the Victory Crunch. If I wanted to add some delay to that and perhaps a bit of chorus, I can simply just sort of dial those in during perhaps the song that I'm using. So yeah, so adding some chorus to that. If I wanted to add some delay on top of that, I can do so. Let's go back to my favourite delay, the space delay. So there we go, and it doesn't save it, so I haven't got to worry about turning them off again. I can actually just do that by simply going bosh. There we go, so now it's disengaged those two because it's gone back to the preset that I had saved. If however I did want to save that, all I'd have to do, so if I wanted to have this now as a preset where these two effects are engaged with that sound, I simply just push the loop on delay and the loop on the chorus, and now if I flick to another preset and go back to that, those two loops are on, so they're now engaged. So yeah, it's such a cool piece of gear. The other reason why I've got all of these set up as well, not only so I can bring them in on the fly like I was just demonstrating there, but also I can take them away. So for example, let's say I'm using, okay, so my clean boost, so there's quite a few effects on at the same time there. So let's listen to that again. Here we go. Okay, so I'm using the my position 2 on the PRS there, so it's got that single coil stratty kind of sound. Now if I wanted to disengage like a few effects, let's say I wanted to get rid of the the delay for example, I can actually just do that by tapping this button a couple of times and then it takes away the delay. There's no delay there now. If I wanted to take away the chorus, I can do that. So there we go. So that's the other benefit to having these Stomp Box modes, is I can take them away as well as adding them to anything that I need. And again, if I want to just bring those both back in at the same time, I can just tap that preset again, and then they're back. There we go. There's the delay. There's the chorus. Okay, so there are all the presets I've got there. So not actually a lot going on there really. I've got 6 presets, 3 of which are very similar. I've got like 3 different sort of cleany type sounds. I've got the Angry Charlie, a solo sound and a crunch, and that's just sort of like, that works for most things that I need to use for the time being, but you know, I am going to set up other banks on here as well. Okay, so yeah, and along here, so I've got the boost going in this Stomp Box here. So I can add that or take it away to whichever one I want. I've got the delay going on here, reverb. I've got reverb engaged on all of these presets, so that just gives me again the ability to take it away. Now that's gone, and put it back in or whatever. So chorus on this one, and I've got the phaser. Let's check that actually. Let's try that with that clean sound. So I'm going to go back to the humbucker pickup. Let's try some phase, shall we? So that's the Boss Super Phaser PH2, it's one of the older ones. So that's kind of cool, kind of fun. Adding a bit more delay to that. So yeah, you can create some really ambient effects. And then I can dial in the my Harmonist over here and order compression on there. So again, when you tap these on, you'll see them light up. So phaser, loop 1, there it is. Compression, now that's on the remote Loopy 2. So when I hit that, if I want to dial it in, so let's go, yeah, we'll stay with that one. If I dial that in, there you go, you can see the lights, the LEDs come on there next to loop 2. That's running into, so that's just basically tagged onto that, and it's common over here as well. Yeah, so there we are. And the Harmonist pedal, let's try that out. Let's go to my Angry Charlie. and the Harmonist sounds like this at the minute. So it's a cool sound. I was saying earlier that I sometimes use the Boss Harmonist for a chorusy sound. Let's quickly dial that in because. Okay, so. Alright, so if I go to. Let's take off the chorus on this one for a moment. Dial in the harmony. Alright, so if we do a bit of this, go to that. Hopefully. There we go. Let's see what that sounds like. There we are. So that's not the chorus pedal anymore, that's actually the Harmonist pedal, which I've just engaged over here. I won't play the rest of that. You probably recognise that tune. So yeah, there we go. Compare that to the chorus. They're very, well, let's try it out. So that's the Boss chorus ensemble. Take that out. Go to the other one. There we are. So it's just got a little bit more there. Again, there's more settings on here. You can play around with those. On this one, let's go to. There we go. It's a bit more extreme. Going in the direction of a rotary. Not sure what the other one is. Let's try that one. So yeah, different options there to play around with. So it does a lot of stuff, that pedal, but as I say, mainly I use it for the Octave sound, which is really fun. All right, okay, and then at the top right here, I've got my tuner. I forgot to mention that as I went through all the pedals earlier, but so basically when I tap on this one, I've got this set up. With the tuner aux button engaged, and there's an output here. Probably won't be able to quite see it, but there's an output there which basically you can send to the tuner, which is my Polytune Mini 2 at the top there. So yeah, that bypasses everything, so you can hear the amps no longer engaged. When I go back to a preset, there we go. So it just turns everything off and the guitar signal simply goes straight down to the tuner, which is great. Silences everything. So yeah, one of the other benefits with the G2, or any loop station for that matter, or switcher unit, is your guitar signal isn't running through all of the pedals. So the way I used to run it before I had this, guitar would be going, the signal, even if the pedals weren't on, your guitar signal would still be going through all of the pedals before they hit the amp. Whereas now, so if I go to my clean sound, my guitar signal is only running through the EP booster and the reverb pedal. So it's only going through 2 pedals rather than going through every single pedal. And sometimes when you're running through all of your pedals, you're going to lose perhaps a little bit of tone. You occasionally pick up hum along the way. So this just makes your guitar signal a lot cleaner, a lot more direct as well. So so as complicated as it might seem, yeah, all of these loops aren't necessarily engaged. So if you have any problems with, like, say, I don't know, say like one of the cables wasn't working on my phaser, let's say like this connection was busted before, you'd have to go through every single pedal to try and figure that out. But now if that cable was busted, which it probably won't happen because these are great cables, but yeah, as soon as I hit on that loop, you'd know about it, because it would, then you get your issues as soon as that loop's engaged, or if I just tapped on that button there to engage that loop. So yeah, it's another really great feature of having a loop switching system. And of course you can set up loads of great sounds that you can just tap on the fly. So cool. Okay, well that's yeah, that's my board. Hope you enjoyed the rig rundown. Oh, I didn't mention the drop pedal. Let's go through that. Okay, so the drop pedal. So I use this for some songs, perhaps where the original recording was recorded in something other than standard, usually perhaps E flat, or sometimes down a couple of semitones. I use it a lot in New Device because we do a lot of stuff in drop C. So what I do is I drop my E string down to a D, and then I engage the pedal to then drop that down to drop C. It's just set down a semitone a minute. So let's go to Angry Charlie again. So I engage the drop pedal. Here's my A power chord. Dropped it down by a semitone, so that is really useful if you're ever playing any songs that perhaps the singer wants to keep in the original key. So I mainly use it for the tone, semitone or a tone down. And last but not least, the volume pedal, which I mentioned earlier. So yeah, it's running before the delay, so after the gains, but before the delay. And so if I bring the volume pedal off, let's disengage the drop pedal for a moment. There we go. All right, back to normal. Okay, so there's the delay. I'll put in my my long delay. Okay, so if I bring the volume down, the delay trails and the reverb still carry on. And it basically acts as a master volume. If I had that at the start of the chain, it would basically do a similar thing to what the guitar volume does. So if I do the same thing with the guitar, so if I bring my guitar volume down, what will happen is it will start to clean up. So if I hit my chord, and that's what would happen if you had your volume in front of the overdrives. So if I bring that volume back in, you'll get all the gain back again as well. Okay, but yeah, so having it after the drives, it kind of acts as a master volume because I've got it running for the effects loop. And that's good for a number of reasons. There's a few things that I'll do where I need to swell in a part, but keep the overdrive there, like this kind of thing. And then with the delay, let's chuck on that one actually. So let's make sure the delay's engaged. Hang on. So when I drop that volume back out, the delay trails carry on. So so yeah, that's great for, you know, a number of reasons. Also, if you need to turn up a little bit, you haven't got to keep going back to your guitar amp. You know, if your guitar amp's right at the back of the stage, you know, and you're perhaps doing, like, you know, you're singing a little bit of a song, doing some BVs, and you need to just either back off or add a little bit more to it, you can just simply do it by using that as like a master volume. So there we are. That's my volume pedal. And that's the board. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that's answered a few questions. I've had a lot of people asking about the G2 gigs and so forth. So yeah, there we are. That is my pedal board at the moment. As I said earlier, I will be replacing this with something else at some point. Not sure, I haven't decided yet. And just before I finish, I just want to say a massive thank you to my dear friend Chris Thomas. He helped me sort out all the power for G2. It's a bit of a big job, and he's got so much knowledge on electronics. So thanks, buddy, for helping me out with that. We spent a whole day just doing the power for G2. I'm going to do a separate video for that, so if you're interested in seeing the build of the pedal board, it will be in there. But anyway, yeah, thanks, mate. I also want to say a big thank you to Jim Clark and Mick Taylor for hooking me up with Ashlyn at Victory Amps. Super proud to be an artist endorsee for Victory Amps. They're incredible amps. Best decision ever made, changing over to Victory now. Super, super cool. That's it for now. See you soon.